Hey guys, what's up? George here, aka T-WreckSs, bringing you another Raid Shadow Legends video. Before we jump into this video, I'd just like to say if you're watching this YouTube video and you've watched any of my other videos and you've enjoyed them at all, please consider subscribing to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Hit the bell notification icon as well to let YouTube know that you want to be told when I upload a new YouTube video. We just surpassed 100 YouTube subscribers and I'm working my way up to building a cool channel. I want to get to a point with this channel where I can do some giveaways on the channel. I want to be able to give away some gems, and actually from my own money I want to give away some packs to you guys, and you have to be subscribed when those giveaways come around, so make sure you're subscribed. Also, I have been streaming twice a day on twitch.tv/T-WreckSs, same as my name, just take away the little dash in the middle. And I've just got to a point where I'm affiliated on Twitch, so if you guys enjoy watching live raid content, make sure you check out my channel. There is a schedule just below the video on my channel page, which will tell you what time I go live in your local time zone. But for those of you watching this video, it's normally around 10:45 AM GMT +1, which is UK time, and then again at 5:45, 6 PM. Every day except Saturday, where I can only stream once because I have family obligations. So please go ahead and do that. This is just a call out at the beginning of the video. What is today's video about? Well, today we are going to go through the champion index, and I'm going to tell early to mid game players some rare champions, both non-void and void, that you want to keep an eye out for, who could help your account progress. If you are a later game player, this still will apply to some of the champs that you might want to look at, but you probably already know them. However, if you want to watch the video anyway, I'd feel free to go ahead. It really helps the channel out. The more you watch the videos, the longer you watch for. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through faction by faction, and I'm going to tell you some rares I think you should keep an eye out for. Some of them I'll tell you why. Other ones, they're just good rares. There's more non-void than void, and the reason for that is that void champs are obviously slightly harder to come by. So let's jump in with the Bannerlords first. Who have we got in the Bannerlords faction that you should keep an eye out for? Absolutely no one for account progression. The only person I would consider saving is this person here, Preserver, and the reason is she is used for one of the fusions to get you a much better champion. So that's it for the Bannerlords when it comes to rares. I say that, having said that, Valerie, maybe really early game is okay because she increases the duration of buffs on your allies, and she obviously shields them. But if you have other options, then I would probably stick with them. Let's jump into the High Elves now. There are rares in the High Elves that you definitely want to keep a lookout for. If you pull an Apothecary, you want to keep him. He is end game viable. He is probably the best or second best rare in the game. Not only does he have triple hits, he has heals and he has speed and turn meter fills, which is something that's very, very important in the game. If you haven't seen my video about speed, I'll link it in the corner right now. A couple of other rares from this that you may want to keep an eye out for. Elaine, she's good early game. She falls off in mid and late game, but she can be very good early game. If you picked her as your starter, it's always one to keep a hold of. And then we also have Reliquary Tender, who is a void rare. She has revives and she also has heals, continuous heals. So she's definitely someone you want to keep an eye out for as well. Sacred Order, let's take a look. Obviously we have Aethel, who is a starter champion. You may have picked her. She's good for early game arena. She has a triple hit A1 and AoE nuke attack, so she can be very, very good. You also will get War Priest when you finish the very beginning of the game. If you haven't seen my beginner's guide, I'll link that as well. She falls off very, very quickly as a healer, but she is a good healer very early game. There is also Mother Superior. If you don't have any other forms of healing, she can actually help you quite a bit with her shielding and stuff, but that's again very early game. Out of the voids, Justicar, he's not going to help you progress at all, but he is used for fusing Relic Keeper, so if you do end up pulling him, keep a copy of him. I have heard that Harrier can be good for damage in the arena early game if you don't have anyone else, so if you're that early, I would say keep him as well. Personally, I would say keep a copy of every void rare that you pull because they're quite often used for fusions, and you don't want to get rid of one and then not have a version to use in a fusion later on. Barbarians, there's actually quite a few Barbarians that you want to keep. Marked is the first one in the list, and the reason you want to keep her for me is this. She has blocked debuffs and increased defense, and she also has a decreased defense on her A1. Granted, it is the small decreased defense, but if you don't have one, it is better than nothing. We then have War Maiden, who is end game viable. There's a lot of videos out on her. She has poisons on her A1. She has an increased attack on herself. Unfortunately, it's not on everybody. This is her main move that you want her for. She has a the big version of decreased defense on an attack all enemy, so an AoE move, which is why she is endgame viable as a rare. You then have Soulbond Boya. She is a relatively new champ, but not only does she give herself extra chance to crit, so she can actually hit really, really hard with this ignore defense, but she also has a turn meter reduction on her A3, which is really good for places like the Spider. And then when it comes to the Voids, there isn't really any that you want to look out for. If you pull a Ragemonger really early game, he can be good for the clan boss. Not only does he heal himself, he has poisons, the small poisons on his A2, and he has a HP burn on his A3, so if you're struggling to get damage out in the clan boss, he can actually be quite good. Alright, Ogre Tribes, there is only one rare I would say keep, that is Bellower. He is probably the most well-known rare. He is a fantastic campaign farmer. He has AoEs on all 3 moves. He also has debuffs on all 3 moves. They can be handy. This guy can be used in conjunction with other people as well if you build him tanky to get through the waves in any dungeon content, obviously being a void rare. Now you may want to keep Rocktooth. He is also for a fusion. If you pull him, keep him for the fusion. Jump into the Lizardmen. The only one in Lizardmen I would really keep would be Haruspex, and again this is very, very early game. He has a speed in the arena lead if you don't have anyone else. He also has the revive for faction wars. Let's jump over to the Skinwalkers. In the Skinwalkers, there's 2 viables that you should keep. The main one is probably Gnarlhorn. He can be used all the way up to Spider 20 to help you tank the Spider because he makes himself unkillable, and then the Spiders can't kill him. He also provokes, which is nice. It means the Spiderlings go for him essentially later on in the game. And then Greybeard, I've heard people use him for other stuff, but I haven't really looked into his kit that much, so maybe keep him if you're feeling lucky and you want to use him for something specific. This is all account related. Obviously, if your account is at a different point in the game, you may not want to keep these, but then if it isn't, you may want to keep them. Galek is a starter. He can hit pretty hard. Ironclad has some unique utility. He has this passive here, which when he's healed, he'll attack all enemies and inflict damage equal to half of the surplus heal. So if he's at full health and you have a champ that heals everybody, you know, every turn, he's going to do some extra damage in that first turn. And if you can get him to a point where he can do some actual serious damage, I know that Darth Microtransaction has a video on him. Veteran is a void rare that you might want to consider keeping purely because he has the big decrease attack on his A1. If you don't have a decrease attack in the clan boss or in faction wars, he can be really handy. I use him in faction wars at the moment myself. Jumping over to the demon spawn. Couple in here that I would potentially keep a copy of. Diabolist. She is a farmable rare from stage 12, Brimstone Path, and you want to keep her because she has sleeps, she has increased speed, as well as attacking all the enemies with that increased speed, and she also fills the turn meter and decreases the turn meter, so she has turn meter manipulation. She's great. She can be used all the way to the end game. She's magic affinity, so she's not great for the Fire Knight, but you should keep a copy of her and you should be able to get plenty enough of her from stage 12 to be able to book her fully. The other person I would keep is Fellhound. He is fantastic in the Fire Knight. He is obviously void. He's fantastic in the Fire Knight for this move. He places a continuous heal and reflect damage, and it goes book down. It goes to a 2-turn cooldown, and essentially that means every 2 turns he's putting up a thing that reflects damage back to the Fire Knight, and if you have it on everybody, obviously that's 5 hits on his shield in the later game. Undead Hordes, let's have a look. There is a couple in here you will want to keep. The first one, and probably the one everybody talks about the most, is Frozen Banshee. She, when booked down, becomes one of the best poisoners for the clan boss if you don't have someone like a Dracomorph, obviously, who is a legendary. She can do actually better than some of the higher level epic poisoners purely because of this poison sensitivity. She then, if she's in with a counter attacker, will lay 2 poisons, the big poison, on the target every time she counter attacks. We also have Seducer in here. Now, people laugh. There is a meme about Seducer going around, but actually he has some fantastic kit. Firstly, he has a chance to sleep on his A1. He has a decreased attack AoE on everybody. Yes, it is the small one, but again, if you don't have the big one, it's better than nothing. But this is the main move you'll want him for. He places the increased defense and the blocked debuffs. Now, you'll notice that's the same as marked. Obviously, this is important in the game because you want to stop your champs getting debuffs so they don't get hurt as much. Another one you might consider is Doomscreech. He was in one of my recent videos for this move here. He fills the turn meters by 30% and places an increased defense. So he's similar to Seeker in the arena. However, he does an increased defense instead of an increased attack. Let's jump into the Dark Elves. Firstly, Kale. He is the person you should have picked as your starter if you had him. If you didn't, like I didn't, unfortunate, but you will likely pull a version of him eventually. I've pulled a few of him now. He has fantastic poisons if you don't have another option for poisoner, and he has some good damage as well in the arena. Spirit Host is the one you want to look out for the most. She is a farmable rare. You can get her from, I believe it's stage 4, the critical rate set stage. If you get her drop very early game, you will want her in the arena. She has a speed in all battles. It's only 10%, but again, if you don't have a speed lead, she's fantastic. She has remove all debuffs and a block debuffs on everyone. She has an increased attack on everybody, and then she has a self-sustain on her A1. We also have Cold Heart, probably the most well-known Dark Elf rare after Kale. She is known for this A3, which is enemy max HP. She's fantastic in the dungeons. She can do a hell of a lot of damage for a rare. She is up there with the Royal Guards, sometimes even better than Royal Guard. The next one I want to talk about is Paragon. Now, he's a bit of an interesting champ because he's not mega useful unless you are playing on manual. If you're playing on manual, you can do a thing called the Paragon cheese, which is when you get books into this A2, he places an unkillable buff on himself, and it's obviously on a 2-turn cooldown for 2 turns. So essentially playing manually every 2 turns, you replace that unkillable buff, and because you would play him low level with low health, things like the Spiderlings and things in the Nightmare campaign will target him, but obviously he's unkillable, and because it's 2 turns on a 2-turn cooldown, he's constantly unkillable. So if you've got someone who can sustain themselves, you can actually use him to do the Nightmare campaign as well as cheese the Spider on multiple levels. That's it for the Dark Elves on rares I think you should keep. Let's jump into Night Rev. Okay, so some rares you should keep here. Coffin Smasher. He has a decreased attack, triple chance to get it. It's a low chance, but if you book him up, it gets relatively consistent on the clan boss. It's not as good as some other champs, but you can lay that decreased attack. He also has a HP burn on his A2, and he reduces the damage enemies inflict with AoE's attack by 5%, so it's another reason he's good in the clan boss. We also have Arcanist. She is good to have quite early game for her continuous heals, which are really helpful. She does have an increased attack and crit rate, but it's not as useful, and also again she has the sleep on that A1. Okie dokes, we'll jump into the Dwarfs now. Now the Dwarfs is a bit interesting. The ones you want to keep for this are mainly for faction wars, but some of them are for the earlier game clan boss. If you haven't seen that video, again linked in the corner. Grumbler's okay to keep. I actually only keep him because he looks like Gimli from Lord of the Rings. He has some utility to him. He can put up a quarter ally protection and increased defense, which is helpful in faction wars if you don't have anybody else for that job. We then have Runic Warder, who I use in my faction wars team. He has reflect damage and continuous heals. He also has a decreased attack, and he has a double hit on his A1, so he can put out a fair bit of damage. Some of these ones in the middle are worth keeping, but we're not going to talk about them. Perforate is pretty good. He has poison on his A1, and he ignores enemy defense on his A2. He also has a passive where he has a chance of placing a fear if he's hit. Fear is a great debuff later in the game because it controls champions even more. The last one we're going to talk about from the Dwarves is Bulwark. He is very good early game clan boss. Not only does he have the small weaken on his A1 and a HP burn on his A2, but every time he's attacked, he has a chance of extending the duration of enemy debuffs, so he can extend your poisons on the clan boss. So they're the rares I would keep a lookout for right now as of this video. I'll probably do an update to this video a little bit later down the line. Again, if you've liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video, and don't forget, get online and get wrecking.